I expect, like most of us, you've all been watching the conference on the future of the planet and what they propose to do about the problems of global warming. I can't help thinking it's just all talk. For example, they're making plans of what's going to happen in 10 years' time, how they're going to cut this and that. But those people won't be in power at that time. There'll be a completely different government. It's very easy. It will be very easy for me to say, oh, in 20 years' time, I'm going to give everybody £500 or $500, knowing full well that I should be dead long before that, because I'm 71 now. So it's very cheap and easy to make such comments. But I'd like to propose that one of the biggest problems the world is facing, which I didn't hear anybody address, is overpopulation. Well, let's look at it like this. If one person shits in the sea, it makes no difference to the planet, does it? But if billions of people pour out untreated sewage into the sea, it kills everything, kills the fish, poisons everything. I don't propose for 1 minute that people should be culled to reduce the number of people. I mean, that would be ridiculous, and at my age I'd probably be one of the first to be shot. But we do have to look at the future. A few years ago, the Chinese came up with the idea that there should only be one child per family, and it wasn't very popular. Now, bearing in mind the future of the planet isn't going to be very popular, because by and large people like the way they live. I mean, I enjoy driving a motor car. I like to heat my house, and so I'm like everybody else, really. But it's not sustainable. It cannot go on like this. And it's all very well saying, oh, we're going to shut the coal mines, we're going to stop having petrol. But there is no direct alternative at the moment. I applaud what they're doing with solar, wind farms, but that represents a minuscule amount of power generation. Nuclear is possibly a good idea, but the decommissioning costs are horrendous. So it's a bit live now, pay later with nuclear. And then there's the problem that if we have nuclear, what about the countries that are always fighting and killing each other and aren't as technically advanced as some others? There's going to be huge problems with nuclear escapes, radiation escapes, and things like that. So that's a partial answer, but it's not the answer. So why don't we look at reducing the population of the planet? As I said before, not by shooting people, although there's plenty of people already doing that, but by a policy of probably for the next 50 years at least one family, in other words, one male, one female, can only have one child. I know people are going to say, oh, it's our right to have as many kids as we want, but that's based on today's current or past situations. We're now looking at a situation where, without putting a mild complexion on things, we are in the shit. There's no other word I can use. But the future of this planet looks very, very glim. I mean, it really does. And if you've got your head in the clouds and you're one of these people that think, oh, God will provide, God won't, because there's no such thing. How can you take notice of people that have imaginary voices in their head telling you to do all these things. You and me are responsible for this planet. No invisible people down the garden, no voices in your head. You and me. We have made this planet the shithole that it is today. And I'm sorry if these words offend some people, but it is the way it is. Why gloss over it and say, oh yes, it'll be jolly good, you know, we'll do this in 30 years time. In 30 years time, it's too late. It has to start now. And I know there's going to be huge opposition to that idea, particularly from the church that thinks you should have as many kids as possible. I mean, that policy has to stop. We have to reduce the number of people on the planet, and it has to stay that way until we've got down to probably 50%, which is going to take a long time. But we have to make a start sometime. Okay, let's imagine we go along with this. Of course, there's going to be millions of countries, particularly those with their mind full of religion, that's going to say, oh no, it's your job to produce as many children as possible. But then there's countries that are third world, that A, can't afford contraception, B, don't even know what it is. You see them on the news every day. Poor people, they've got nothing. The land is barren because the water's all dried up and it doesn't rain, global warming. And they're just there wandering about with nothing to do. There's no point in planting anything because nothing grows. But they have copious amounts of children. And that has got to stop, because these poor people have nowhere to go and nothing to do. They can't grow anything, they've got no housing. That's assuming, of course, that they're not fighting and at war with each other. Over what? Sand. This has got to stop. Now, it's all very well the world saying, oh, we'll send them lots of food. That is unsustainable. I remember as a child, all those years ago, making collections for people in Ethiopia and places like that. Nothing has changed. The place is just the same. There's still the same sad, pathetic people wandering about with nothing to do, no food, but they have copious amounts of children. It would be kinder to issue them free contraception. Send over 50 containers full of contraceptives. Tell them how to use them, and that is the only way. Because otherwise these people, and it's already started, they just migrate to another place. Now, again, don't get me wrong, I'm not bitter about such people, because it's not their fault. But when they see a place like Europe, well, even America, I can't think why anyone would want to go there, but there we go. Places like that where people think, I'll walk there and I'll have a better life. That is unsustainable. You cannot have millions and millions of people invading, if you like, a first world country, because what will they do? Even New Zealand, there's a housing shortage, and yet we're still having refugees coming in. Where are they going to go? Well, the answer is they end up living in poor housing. They can't speak the language. I mean, language is a major problem. If you can't speak the language, you're screwed if you go to another country. Let's look at another point. I saw on a program the other day that Coca-Cola worldwide produce millions upon millions of plastic bottles every day, and only about 20% ever gets recycled. Now, I don't want to say don't drink Coca-Cola, because that's a nonsense. If you want to fill your mouth full of sugar and rot your teeth and ruin your health, that's your choice. But why don't we change things worldwide and say to Coca-Cola, you must now go back in time and produce your drinks in bottles, glass bottles, which are recycled, and you make a considerable deposit on them so that people will recycle them, because people are lazy, and I don't exclude myself from this. I'm a person same as you. It's easy to throw a bottle in the rubbish bin, or if you're even worse than me and lazier, you just sling it in the sea or something like that. And that wouldn't happen, because already you see third world countries, kids crawling around on rubbish pits, taking out plastic bottles for portions of a cent. But if those bottles were like it used to be, I mean, I know Coca-Cola won't like this because it'll eat into their profits, which is ridiculously high amount of profit. So they used to make billions before plastic bottles came out. So why can't they make billions? People will still drink the stuff. So that's what I would propose, that worldwide they go back to producing bottles, and they have a sizable deposit on them. Not 5 cents or 10 pence or something like that. Something quite substantial, probably say 30% of the cost of the drink. No one's going to throw that away. And for the people that do like to sling it out of their car window and people like that, there will be other people that will be delighted to go round and collect the 30 cents or whatever it is on the bottles. So it's a win-win situation. But if that isn't possible, you do the same thing with plastic bottles. You make a sizable deposit on them. That will relieve the situation. No one's going to throw away bottles that are worth 30, 40 cents or even more. If you can't stop people throwing them away anywhere and polluting everything, that's the answer. A sizable deposit. And that's not just, I'm not just picking on Coca-Cola. Water bottles. Why do people, and I include myself, buy water in a bottle? Wouldn't it be better to spend those billions of dollars cleaning up the water supply so that people can turn on their tap and drink it without getting some awful disease or drinking thesis or stuff like that? It's just what we've got to do for the future. Now, those are just 2 simple thoughts. I could be on here all day boring the life out of you, but I don't know why people can't see some of the possibilities that are open to us on this planet. People think, oh, it doesn't matter if the soil's damaged or whatever, but my garden's okay. And it's easy for me to say that because my garden is okay. I've got my own water supply that comes off the roof. I don't have to worry about pesticides in the water, and I don't have to worry about running out of water. But not everybody can do that. So look after our planet. It's the only one we've got.